Early on, I was going to meetings and stuff about the water, and at the time, I think my one son was 7 years old. He came to me and he says, "Thanks, Dad, for keeping me safe."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you know what? It brought a tear to my eye, and I put my daddy cap on. I'm like, you know what? I'm doing my job, and that's what I'm here for.
I guess it was just frustrating, though.
Yeah, it's
especially
frustrating.
when you feel like no one's on your
bad.
side, and like I've asked DEP multiple times, I'm dissatisfied with you. Who's next? Where do I go? Oh, nowhere. What do you mean nowhere? Nowhere. So I've gone to the EPA, and
when they deem that the state's not doing their job, the EPA says
I have written them repeatedly, and they say the same loop-de-loop.
My suggestion, and I could be completely wrong, just keep writing them.
I will.
Because,
don't worry.
like I said, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. But my understanding is that the EPA is supposed to step in when a state is deemed not doing their job.
I've emailed
the state agency
so many senators and our congressmen and Rendell, our governor, and every time they do the same thing. They send my letter about my frustration with DEP to DEP and say, please respond. So I get the same lies back from DEP that I initially got in their response. So then I write the same politician again and I say, okay, here's how this went. This time, could you please address this? Instead of just sending it on to DEP, the very people I'm complaining to you about. And do you know what they do? They send it on to DEP and say, please respond. And then I get another letter from DEP with the same original lies. And it's just like this big circle where nobody is in your court.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just start to feel like it's hopeless.
Oh, it does go back to DEP, pretty much everything. We've tried to branch out and find somebody that actually cares a little bit more than DEP. But they are the regulatory commission for all this.
Very frustrating.
But to get back real quick to my son, of course he's about 8 years old now. He came to me again, the same son that said, "Thanks for protecting me." He told my wife, he didn't tell me, that Daddy's changed. I'm not as fun anymore. You know what? That bothered me bad.
I bet. You can't put dollar signs or anything on that kind of loss.
I think you're fun, Steve.
That's frustrating.
I bet.
I'll tell you what, I feel sorry for anybody that gets put in this place. It's just not fair. The walls you run up against, and I'm not going to stop though.
What do you think it's done to your home values?
That's
downhill. After hearing this, would you buy?
I mean, you know what? You've never had it
appraised
since this.
No.
Nobody on the street has.
What's the point?
Right. I mean, why pay
if
that?
I could move tomorrow,
$350 or whatever.
as much as I love my neighbors, I would.
Mm-hmm.
I would move
and I
tomorrow.
think we all feel that.
I keep getting that story too.
But you can't.
Right.
And like I was telling you, when we first bought our house, we spent way too much on it, and we knew that. It's very much a fixer-upper. And we just figured over the next 10, 15 years, as we got a little money here and there, we'd fix it up. But we loved the area.
Yeah.
Now, everything we loved is gone. I mean, the trees are still pretty, don't get me wrong, but really why we moved here, the peace, it's gone. We'll never get what we put into that house. Never.
Like I've explained to people before that, I'm not a big investor. I'm a worker, a blue-collar worker, just like many people out there. And my home is my single biggest investment that I have. And to lose value in that, it's due to somebody else's negligence. It's just not, and greed.
It just didn't have to be this way. And it doesn't. They could fix it tomorrow. They could come up here tomorrow and they could say, you know what? We screwed up. We're going to run city water. We're going to, now this monstrosity, I don't know how the courts will go if they appeal it, but it looks like it might be gone.
What,
and
the pump up here on the hill?
Yeah, we'll see. The stripping plant.
Is that what you guys are crossing your finger for?
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong there. It does
Right.
get.
Yeah,
I mean, you can
belong
still
there.
do this work. Just pipe it somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be right next to the well. It could be miles away.
I mean,
they could take this gas miles away and process
it doesn't have to be right here. So I can't speak for my whole neighborhood, but I know personally, if they came up tomorrow and said that to me, sorry, we screwed up. We realize that now. We're going to give you drinkable water. We're going to get this thing out of your hair. I'd be totally happy. I wouldn't even sue them. I'd be done. That's all I've ever wanted. Just restore me. Just restore my home. I'd wave to them at the grocery store. I'd send them birthday cards. Like, I wouldn't even hold a grudge. I just want it fixed.
So, these are local people
Yes.
that are working up on the hill. That know what's up on the hill.
Two of the three are local people. The one is from out of state.
So if I went down to a little diner in town somewhere and started asking about the natural gas and the oil and stuff, but they know it, just a regular citizen would know what I was talking about and probably have an opinion on it.
Oh yeah.
And they'll know the people too.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody around here. Everybody knows, and I know the lawyer. I work on his car. It's awkward because he actually still comes into where I work, and I just can't speak to him.
Yeah, you go out to dinner and you see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the glares, some of the people, not all of them. You should see the looks they give. I always just wave, but you should see they're angry. They hate us. But it doesn't seem like they should. Just fix it.
Oh yeah, what would their feelings be if it was their backyard?
Yeah, but they don't think.
So tell me about this big oil spill. Somebody explain what happened, when that was, and everything.
March 11th, I think it was. I think it was March 11th
Of this year.
of this year.
Oh, so it's recent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody left a valve open on one of those tanks, and it drained.
One of their workers.
One of their workers, yeah. Which they tried to blame it on us.
Did they?
Yeah.
There was a police investigation. It was found that it was one of their workers.
And I think ultimately one of the workers did admit to it.
Yeah.
But
I think so,
initially,
too.
I know when the kids came up here from that other teacher sending them, they tried to tell those kids that it was a crime scene because one of the neighbors got desperate, and that's what people do when things aren't going their way.
My mother-in-law came up the street to let our dog out, and she saw some guy flagging people down in the middle of the road. She said it was a younger guy. I can't speak to who it was. I assume it's one of the people that work on the lease up there. She said he was covered in oil, everything else, and my mother-in-law said, I heard there's an oil spill up here. And he says, what oil spill?
Yeah, I don't know anything
He's
about
standing
that.
in the road, flagging people down, not letting them up the road, and he's covered in oil.
What oil?
What oil spill? Nothing.
Oh, it smelled.
Well, then it came
so
out later.
awful.
Yeah, it
It
smelled.
was all down
and
the creek.
It comes right
and
down.
they tried to
the
say it didn't get very far, but you could see, I don't know if you noticed that overgrown pond down at the cemetery.
Yeah.
It used to be a beautiful duck pond.
Yeah.
And then it turned into wetland, so DEP wouldn't let them do anything with it. They have to leave it alone, and that's why it doesn't look like a pretty pond anymore. It looks like a swamp.
Yeah.
All the oil got down into there.
and further.
I'm sure.
Rushed
Yeah, I
down
mean, people
into
said,
a main creek.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
people saw it, smelled it.
Their last containment
Down
was upstream.
Right.
We documented it over the weekend. I actually called DEP and said there's oil down in the duck pond and down at the cemetery.
Was it just a sheen or was it a lot?
Oh
No! It wasn't a she. It was a ball, this yellow, crude
You've been
sludge.
watching CNN?
Oh yeah,
It was a little bit like that.
Yeah, because a sheen. Yeah, you could have one drip of oil and make a really big sheen.
But it was
this was a huge
globbed up.
globbed up, and it was all down in there. And I said, this is below your last containment area. And I called DEP on it. They did not respond to it. So I questioned them why they didn't respond to it, and I called our township. And within a half an hour, our township responded, got to the people that were the cleanup crew, had them down cleaning all that up.
They have been the
Township
most
really stepped
useful
up.
to us.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And
That's good.
initially, I didn't feel like that was going to happen. Initially, they kept saying things that made me feel like they were just totally not on our side and they weren't going to help. And we just kept pushing. Every single township meeting, 40 of us would show up and sit there and ask questions. And, we arranged other meetings with them separately, not that just at the township. And we had different politicians come. I mean, we just kept pushing. And for whatever reason, whether they just got sick of us or whether they actually started to realize this is actually a big problem, but for whatever reason, they have really stepped up.
They
they've
did not
been like
want to deal with it at first.
They've been
just-
the only people to help us, I feel.
Yeah. But, I mean, they did finally step up to the plate, and they finally took off with it and ran with it. They are, trying to shut them down. Again, we're just applying the law here.
Right.
That's all we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to the township to apply the law for zoning. And now it's costing the township quite a bit of money during this process. As they win, and if, in the end, they will recoup this money from the driller. So it's in their best interest to win now.
Who did the cleanup down here in the cemetery, or did anyone?
I don't know.
The driller hired a company.
I don't know.
I forget